Buckshot Roulette, a game that took the internet by storm almost 2 years ago with its unique gameplay and creepy atmosphere, has inspired the creation of many indie games. And recently, it has inspired me to make my own. Hi, my name is Jordan and I'm an indie game developer currently using Godot for development. Earlier this year, I made a game in 7 days for the first Brackeys Game Jam of 2025 and ended up placing 794th overall. I decided to join the jam once again with the goal of beating this score as well as making the best game that I possibly could. After voting on my favorite themes and a few weeks of waiting, the first day of the jam came around. The theme with the most amount of votes ended up being Risk It for the Biscuit, which made me really excited because it's the one I've wanted to win the most. I immediately grabbed a pen and paper and started brainstorming ideas for the game. When I thought of Risk, the first thing that came to mind was Buckshot Roulette and how heavily the game relies on the player risking in order to win. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to just copy off Buckshot Roulette's gameplay and release it as my own. I've taken inspiration from the core gameplay and put my own spin on it. Since the game is biscuit themed, I've decided to have it revolve around the player and the opponent dipping cookies in glasses placed around a table. These glasses contain either milk, which gives you points, or acid, which deducts points and also dissolves the cookie. Unlike Buckshot Roulette, you can't choose to affect your opponent directly, and instead, every decision you make affects only yourself. Now, since I've spent pretty much the whole year binge-watching every Game Grumps playthrough of all the game show games they've played, I really wanted to make a game show of my own. This also meant that I was going to change up the rules even more and exchange the lives for points instead. The game now works much in the same way a regular game show would, where the winner is whoever scored the most points over the course of 3 rounds. And so with the rules out of the way, it was time to start making this game into a reality. I've spent the first day coding the base gameplay loop of choosing a glass and having the opponent choose one back. It took a while to get it right, as the computer would often choose a glass which didn't exist, but eventually I got it working. I've also spent the whole morning recording voice lines for the game show host who would be narrating the whole game. I was going for a very stereotypical game show host name when naming him, and so I ended up calling him Richie McLaughlin, spelled exactly like that. The second and third day were both spent by adding points and power-ups to the game. I've decided to add 2 power-ups, one being a hammer, which you can use to break a glass of your choosing and avoid the consequences of picking it, and the other being a pH meter, which can be used to check whether a glass contains milk or acid. After I was finished with the gameplay, it was finally time to get started on some of the art. I've spent the rest of the day drawing all of the animations in Sprite and implementing them into the game. However, I realized something really bad on the third day. I've been really nervous about getting this game done on time, and I was worried that the idea is far too ambitious to be made in only a week. As a result of this, I've been coding the game very frantically, which led to the code being inefficient, unoptimized, and very buggy. Fixing the code would mean coding the whole game from scratch. Since I was now halfway through the week, there was no time to fix it. It was an incredibly frustrating realization, and I finished that day feeling horribly defeated. Despite feeling very disappointed the day before, I woke up the next morning feeling very refreshed, and I decided to start drawing the logo for the game. The game's title ended up being the same as the theme, Risk It for the Biscuit. I know it's not exactly original, but I couldn't think of anything else, and Risk It for the Biscuit just fit the game show vibe I was going for perfectly. This version of the logo is actually an early draft. I ended up changing it later because it kind of ended up looking more like Paw Patrol rather than a game show. Anyway, after drawing the first logo, I decided to take a break and instead work on making the game look way nicer. I hopped into Blender and made a 3D model of the stage. After that, I made all the textures for it and imported it into the game. On day 5, it was finally time to say goodbye to our robotic friend and replace him with a human opponent instead. I drew a sprite for him along with the game show host, animated them, and placed them into the level. After that, I added cutscenes and round transitions into the game. Now, since Buckshot Roulette has been a huge inspiration behind this game, it felt wrong not to include at least a little bit of the game's eerie atmosphere. I've added a few unsettling segments into the game, but you'll have to find those yourself. As the final piece of gameplay, I've added endings to the game. There's 2 endings in total, one for when you win and another for when you lose. On day 6, I've decided to return to the game's logo and overhaul it. I chose a slightly slimmer font this time, which I was a lot happier with. With the logo finished, there was only the main menu remaining. I was trying to go for a very energetic vibe that really sells the theme of a game show, and so I've made the title jump into the screen and added a rain of golden cookies into the background. It took a little bit of trial and error to get the particles right, but eventually I got a result that I was really happy with. Then I added a splash screen, a credit screen, as well as a custom cursor. Overall, I really like it. Now that the game was finished, it was time to export it and submit it to the jam. When I was designing it, I was very inspired by Mafia: The Old Country's Steam page, which had these GIFs that show off the gameplay. I ended up working on the page till about 2:30 AM, and this is what it ended up looking like. I was going for a bit of a more traditional description as opposed to what my last game had. I've been having this issue lately where the things I write end up sounding a lot like they were written by AI, which really sucks since they aren't. Definitely let me know in the comments below what you think. I'd really appreciate some feedback on it. Either way, I'm really proud of how the page turned out. After submitting my game and finishing its itch page, the rating period of the jam had begun. I ended up rating a lot less games than last time. This was mostly just because I was really busy, but I did manage to play about 29 games overall. Even though I didn't play nearly as many games as I would have liked to, I still had a great time playing and rating other people's games. I guess, without further ado, let's take a look at the results. I ended up placing 17th overall, which is absolutely insane to think about, especially considering the score I had last time. My overall best ranking ended up being in the theme category, where I placed 6th. I am extremely happy that I managed to get such a high ranking on the jam, and it wouldn't be possible without all the amazing people who took time out of their day to play, rate, and comment on my game during the jam. Thank you all so much. If you'd like to check the game out yourself, simply head over to itch.io and look up Risk It for the Biscuit. Unfortunately, I haven't unlocked advanced features on YouTube yet, so I can't leave a link to it in the description. I'll make sure to add it in there as soon as I'll be able to, so depending on when you're watching this, the link might be there already. With that out of the way, thank you all for watching this video till the end. If you enjoyed watching, remember to hit all the buttons below, and goodbye!